The 357 Magnum, one of the world's most respected and capable self-defense and hunting cartridges for the handgun and the small carbine. Compared to its modern contemporary friend, 9mm Luger, or the 9x19, you can see why the 357 has still maintained its relevancy even into today. One of the reasons that I love this round is that it has the highest number one shot stoppage rate of any contemporary modern cartridge, other than something crazy like the 44 Magnum or something like that. So of the rounds that people still use today, potentially in law enforcement, people still believe that the 357 Magnum has the highest likelihood, outside of only a couple others, of stopping an intruder or a assailant with one shot versus your 9mm, which usually takes more than one. That being said, this is still a very capable cartridge, and there's a very good reason why people still use it. One of the reasons that I love the 357 is that it allows us to use guns that I think are so cool. Here's my Python. This is a cool gun. That being said, this gun has a cool factor that is a little bit different than other 357s. But I love this gun. Now, I have been dreaming over having a single action 357 for many years. As you might have seen from a couple of my previous other videos, I have a Ruger Blackhawk. Now, one of my favorite things in the world is a Ruger Blackhawk Bisley. And those are not as common as you think. There are Ruger Vaquero Bisleys, but a Blackhawk Bisley in 357 is somewhat rare these days. Now, I have found one that I believe is a perfect Holy Grail combination. Enter the Ruger Blackhawk Bisley Convertible. Now, there is always going to be a debate about whether you say Bisley or Bisley. Now, I make this joke because some of you will confidently say it's Bisley, but then there is another group of you that will confidently say it's Bisley. And it doesn't matter which way I say it, some jackass has decided that he's going to try to correct me. I'm going to use the word Bisley because that's the one that I believe is the most correct term and the one that I believe is backed up by the people who build this gun. What this is, and let's safety check it before we do anything. This is full of red snap caps by A-Zoom so we can play with the trigger. This is a Ruger Blackhawk, meaning that from here to the barrel is all completely regular Ruger Blackhawk. But the change that we have here is this Bisley grip. Normally you have a much shorter grip that is a little bit wider down the back, as some people like to call it the plow handle grip. Now that is what the main change in this gun is, as well as the trigger and the hammer. The hammer, instead of being a perfectly straight hammer, there is a slight curve. And then this trigger is a slightly different profile. And this one has been polished by Ruger. Now, this is a stainless gun. This gun can probably be found in blued as well. However, most of my Rugers are in blue, and to have this one in stainless is a real treat. This is a holy grail gun of mine because to have the Blackhawk, which is basically the same as the Vaquero in most ways, but with a rear adjustable sight, as well as a blade sight up here that has been pinned on. So this gives you the ability of increasing your accuracy by quite a bit while still having the single action running gear. One of the things that makes this gun special as well is that it is convertible. Now I'm going to use a 9mm snap cap here to show you this is a 9mm, this is a 9mm. What we have here is, because it is a single action and that we don't actually have to have a ejector that ejects all the rounds at once, we are not required to use a moon clip. And you see that little notch inside of there? That index is on the end of the case instead of on the bullet. And because 99% of 9mm rounds have a case length that is exactly the same, you can drop a case in there and it will sit perfectly. Because this cylinder ejects one at a time, you will place them in one at a time rather than having to use a moon clip, rather than in a gun like the Python that will need to eject all at once. and in that situation would require a moon clip so that all 6 rounds can be ejected. So as we can see here, a single 9mm round can be inserted and ejected. What makes this so special is that the bore of the 357 Magnum is only within a couple thousandths difference to the 9mm, same as the 38 Special. So what we have is a gun that can shoot 38 Special through the 357 cylinder as well as 357 Magnum, and by changing to the 9mm, can shoot 9mm, factory or hand loads. And if you look at how thick the cylinder wall is here for the 9mm, I feel like if you wanted to play with some pretty stout hand loads with 147 grain, or maybe what we'd call plus P+, you can probably approach some pretty stout 9mm loadings. Or, if you like, shoot for 20 cents a round all day, all night. One of the reasons that I like the Blackhawk is that unlike my Python, the Blackhawk has the ability to always ignite every primer I use. The Python has a tuned trigger and hammer spring, meaning that there are some harder primers like CCI 550s or Aguila, which are sometimes not ignited by the slower hammer fall of having the tuned gun. Now in single action, the hammer drops a little bit further and gains some more kinetic energy, allowing it to ignite every time. But I don't want to carry a gun that will not 100% light every primer. That means that if I do want to carry this, I will have to carry a load that uses a Federal primer or something that I know is going to be soft enough to be ignited on the double action. I don't have to worry about that with this gun. So I'd like to thank you for joining me on this. This is a very special Holy Grail gun for me, and I'd like to be able to show you a range update soon. I've got a chance to hand load a set of trial loads here that are going to be very similar to this. 125 grain with 20, 20 and a half, and 21 grains of 296 powder, which are fairly stout. Now, I believe that this gun will be able to gladly take it, as the Ruger frame is one of the strongest frames that you can possibly get. But this is something that I am very excited about, and I hope gladly that you will follow along in this project. Thanks a lot, everyone.